Welcome into the At the Art podcast. My name is 𝔼𝓼𝓮𝓼𝓮𝓼. I'm joined by the entire crew today, Matt Monk, Hank LoForte, Stephen Hardesty, as we're going to look to break down players, standout players from our recent preseason ID events. Boys, thanks for hopping on. Thanks for doing this, and looking forward to having a good conversation.
Awesome. Thank you for having us back.
Yeah, good to be on in the new year.
Yep, happy to be back. Let's get into it.
Hank always bringing the energy as usual. Love it.
NorCal casual up there.
Gotta be casual.
Hank's bringing SoCal cool to NorCal, folks. So that's all that's happening here.
Free SoCal guys, man.
All right, so we had a bunch of preseason ID events starting January 2nd, rolling through the early parts of February here, giving guys an opportunity to come out, run through our showcase platform, earn invitations to our invite-only events later in the summer. First one we had was down in Orange County, where we kicked off at beautiful 𝐺𝓼𝓻 High School. Several standouts there amongst the 50 or so players that attended, but let's jump into that with first guy we're going to talk about is Ridder Fredrickson from 𝐺𝓼𝓻, the 2027 outfielder. We'd seen him a little bit last year playing for 𝐺𝓼𝓻, but we got a really good up-close look on him here at the preseason ID down at 𝐺𝓼𝓻. Matt, you were there. Hardy, you were there. I was there. One of you guys jump in there on Ridder Fredrickson.
I'll go real quick. I think the strength and ease of operation for a 27 was really impressive. I was feeding the pitching machine during BP, and just the impact off the bat when he would get to contact and the way the ball exploded and then carried was pretty eye-opening for a younger player.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, maybe a little bit of home ballpark bias, but everything just looks smooth for him. Moving in the outfield with the bat in the box, and a really, like you mentioned, Hardy, a really strong and developed frame.
Yeah, we saw him. Shooter Hunt, our national director of scouting, saw him taking BP last year before a game and sent us all a video. It was like, whoa, who's this guy? And, as a freshman, he was pretty physical as a freshman. Looks like he's just added to that frame, with the physicality. I mean, this broad shoulders, it's like you said, Hardy, a pretty easy operation at the plate, and the athleticism in the outfield can't be undersold either. I mean, it was pretty good from there.
Yeah.
But then, hey, Hank, we went up to the North Bay there and had a good group of players there. And one of the guys that we had seen at our preseason All-State last year made the return trip this year to the preseason ID up there. Gio Castang, 27 catcher. You talk about physical. I mean, this guy is, stoutly built and a physical frame.
Yeah, even before I want to get into how he is, but just what I noticed as a person, he was the first guy there. He was the guy asking for help, like, hey, coach, what do you need? So just noticing that, I was like, all right, this kid's a good player, but he's also a good kid. And then just seeing him, move around, I was like, this kid's pretty strong for a sophomore. He's not the tallest kid, but he's 5'9", 5'10", but he's a football player. So he just got done with football. He's got a lot of hand speed. He's hitting pretty good. Wears out the middle, which I like. He's not a pull guy. And then he can also play some infield too, which is good for him just because he may be able to go around the diamond. And then that Novato High School team, they're pretty legit, I think, with all those.
I was just doing their preview yesterday. They're going to be a pretty solid program.
Yeah, he really stood out. First thing, I'm really glad you touched on that. He was the first guy there, was the last guy to leave. I mean, he was helping us clean up. I mean, that says a lot about him as a person, but just the physicality, man. I mean, that guy is, probably like 4% body fat type frame. I mean, it was, physical, strong. The lower half is thick. The arm really, really impressed me. Those throws were all on the bag from behind the plate. And then when he got behind the plate to catch a pen, his ability to block and recover, and it's just a really bright future there for Castang. I agree with you wholeheartedly. He's going to help Novato win a lot of games this year. Hank, and moving over to the Central Cal preseason ID, Hardy, an event you ran there. Jackson Tyler at 25, San Diego State commit, was one of your standouts there. Tell us a little bit more about him.
I think when you come into an event and you're the lone committed player attending, there's a little bit of pressure on you. And Jackson did a fantastic job of living up to that pressure. I had just seen him a couple weeks earlier at a Thanksgiving tournament. He really swung the bat well. But the thing that was intriguing for me is he's starting to play some outfield at Chaminade. He'd been predominantly an infielder. So he showed up and he first comes out and he runs the best 60. He was 6'8" in the 60 on kind of a windy, not very comfortable day for guys. The bigger thing was when he got to the outfield, like I knew he was a good athlete and I knew he had some ability to hit, but it was the arm strength. He was 88 to 90 on all of his outfield throws and got up to 93 with good carry. There may have been a little bit of wind at his back as we had like 25 to 30 mile an hour gusts blowing in. But either way, the ball was coming out of the hand really well. He showed well on the infield dirt. We did our infield at shortstop. It might be a little stretch for him there, but he's going to be a really good second baseman, which is where he's played predominantly. And then the bat plays. I think the thing I like about him is he doesn't try to be somebody who he's not. He's a very high contact line drive guy who just sprays barrels around the field. And that's what he did during BP. He wasn't trying to jump ship. He wasn't trying to lift balls. He was up to 97 and it was just barrel, line drive, barrel all through the middle to pull side of the field. So he's going to be a key piece for Chaminade this spring. And then excited to see what he does when he gets down to San Diego.
Yeah, speaking of a guy headed to San Diego, a guy we're really familiar with, Diego Gonzalez out of ☍Dorado, was at the Orange County preseason ID again. And it's just such an easy operation. I mean, defensively, the feet work, the arm work, the way he moves on his frame that I think is, by the time it's all said and done, is going to add another 20 pounds or so. But then he got into the box, man, and he was hitting – I mean, he was wearing out the gaps, right? Kind of like you said to Hank earlier, like you like to see that. And, we definitely got a good look on that on Diego. Matt, I mean, what were your impressions of Diego from that Orange County preseason ID?
I mean, yeah, we saw a lot of good stuff from him at the state games in the summer. I mean, the hands are fast, the bat's fast, exit velocities to the gaps. So, I mean, really impressive performance. His max distance was 384. And also really intriguing as a pitcher too. So it's good to see that he's, staying consistent with his hitting and it's going to be exciting to watch him in the spring.
Yeah, I like that you brought up that 384, Matt. He was one of a few guys that got me to stop feeding the machine and turn around and watch a ball that he hit that almost cleared the indoor facility there at J. Sarah.
Yeah. It's an impressive swing from the left side and from a smaller frame too. But heading back up north, Hank, Cole Roth was a guy that I was completely unfamiliar with, came out to the preseason ID, and we are very familiar with him now.
Yeah, I didn't know Cole Roth is actually Trey Morris's catcher.
Oh, really?
At Washington Union. Yeah. So originally I saw Washington, I thought Fremont. And then I looked and it was, it's Trey's school. So I was like, okay. Never heard of him, never seen him at all. I know he plays for my buddy's organization out there, DIB. But rather than that, I was like, all right, let's see what this kid's got. And then I think where I noticed it was the defensive workout. Is his arm was on. I was like, whew. Yeah. I think he was 79, 80 from behind the dish. And that's, I'd say that's above average. And then when he stepped in the box, we all kind of were like, who's this kid? I think he hit like 4 or 5 bombs out and we were just like, let's roll with it. And then, he hit the farthest ball of the event, I think, was around 380. He's finding the sweet spot 83% of the time. So I think him catching Trey, too, is going to help him just, catching those dudes. Because in his area, he's kind of like Southern Fresno, So I don't know. When I go out to Fresno or Hardy does, I hope you see Cole again because he's another kid on that team that's pretty good.
The one thing that's important to mention about hitting those balls out, Hank, is it was like 42 degrees, thick, dense fog that day, kind of a wispy weather out. And it's like when that bat gets going, when it's hot, like that's something that's like uber projectable.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, it was very impressive just to, the whole weekend weather wasn't the greatest, but but yeah,
we'll get into that later. We'll get into that in a different podcast because you're right. It was rough that weekend in NorCal, but hey, that's how it goes up there. But back down to the Central California ID. And I'm going to butcher this name, and I want to apologize in advance. But this dude was a dude for us there at that event. 𝕼𝕚𝕚𝕕𝕕. I hope I got that close to right. A 2026 with some physicality to his game, Hardy.
Yeah, he was one. He played on the lower levels last year at Thousand Oaks. He's got a chance, I think, to get on the varsity level and maybe get some quality playing time for them this year. But what he did at the workout was really impressive. He's a kid that I've seen a bunch of stuff on Twitter or X, sorry, on X. And I've been trying to get him out to an event because I wanted to get a chance to see him in person. And he showed up to this one, and it's like you said, it's an athletic frame. There's a little bit of wiry strength to him. He took infield at first base and talked to him afterwards. I'm like, dude, do you play outfield? Because you run a sub 760 and you've got some arm strength. He's like, yeah, I mainly play the outfield, but I wanted to try first base today. I was like, all right, well, that's cool. Like, I dig it, man. He's like, no, I'm really an outfielder. But it was the BP that got me. Like, loose, fast hands. He got up to 24.8 on his hand speed. I think he averaged in like the upper 23 mile an hour range. And he was just on the barrel. It was a 64% hard hit rate. He was up to 94.3. He averaged 90.6 during BP. The interesting thing about it is that, like, he doesn't really use his lower half a ton. It's really a hands-based swing, and he's hitting the ball that hard with just his hands. Like we were talking about earlier, the wind was blowing straight in, so it wasn't easy to get a ball up and hit it through that. But he was crushing some hard, like one hop ground balls through the infield, where I'm intrigued if he learns how to get into his lower half and use that a little bit more. There's some real home run power there because the ball just explodes off the bat with an easy swing.
Yeah, he was really impressive for a guy that's normally an outfielder to do what he did at first base, right? I mean, he was moving around the bag. I mean, it was easy. Like, it's just the athleticism really played up for him there. And speaking of athleticism, we got eyes up close on Max Smaldino down at Orange County, the right-handed pitcher, the 2027 from 𝓼𝓻𝓮𝓼𝓮. And I thought he was the best pitcher at the event. I think you guys probably agree with that. It's an easy operation down the mound. It's athletic. The movements, the command that he showed in a bullpen session was really eye-opening.
Yeah, he was. I was standing behind doing the camera and watching the pictures from rear view and talking scouting with one of our interns from down in San Diego. And I think he threw his first three pitches, and I looked at him. I'm like, hold on, man. I got to watch this. Like, this is really good. Give me like 2-3 minutes just to really bear down on what this kid's doing because the ball came out of the hands so well.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, less long limbs, easy operation, gets down the hill really well. Breaking ball has some two plane to it, gets some drop and some lateral movement. It's easy. And I mean, 88 early January, nothing to laugh about. So, I mean, we'll see what that's at when comes springtime, but it looks like he can be a legit arm.
Yeah, for another loaded 𝓼𝓻𝓮𝓼𝓮 team, but
Rich get richer. Rich get richer down there.
Yeah. Heading back up north, Hank. Michael Scarpa, a guy that was there. I mean, this dude hit the ball as hard as anybody at that event from
Big
the left
Mike.
side. Yeah, Big Mike was putting it on full display there offensively, right? I mean, he played over at first base during the workout and handled himself fairly well there as well. But the bat, I think, is something that is really intriguing now, and the projection on it is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Big Mike. I saw him when he was about 12. Wasn't small at all. So he could still
bigger
hit.
than you and I already.
Absolutely, Hardy. He goes to Valley Christian, so it's a pretty predominant school in the Bay Area. Yeah, I'm looking at his numbers. It's 24 max hand speed. He's ripping balls 67%, hard hit rate. So, I mean, I think the big I was thinking about it. His comparison is the York dude from GCU.
Good
Mhm.
Big
call.
lefty.
Good call.
DH.
Zach York.
That's Big Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, at first base, if he could hold his own, just learn how to pick it, be a little agile, then the hit tool is going to take care of itself. Because I played with a guy like this in college, 𝔼𝕚𝓵𝓮. He's from Fresno. He's a bigger kid, but you can't teach that hit tool.
Right.
So,
yeah, he was living on the barrel, as Hardy likes to say, and was I mean, it was impressive again when you consider all the factors that were happening that day with the weather and the fog and all that stuff. For him to hit the ball as hard and as far as he did, I think he left the yard once or twice to the pull side. It was impressive, and that guy was definitely a guy that we saw when he walked up. I had never seen him before, and I was kind of like, okay, let's see what this kid can do. It's a bigger frame, but it's a strong frame, right? It's not a sloppy, bigger frame. So it was, he definitely kind of fit, lived up to the billing, so to speak, that we thought and we'd hoped that we would get out of him. But last guy we're going to chat about here from the preseason IDs, Jacob Wicker out of Santa Margarita, the 2026 committed to LMU, was at our preseason ID down in Orange County. I got a chance to see him over MLK weekend as well. And, this guy, Matt, I mean, he looks the part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he walks up, he's 6'5", 200, 205, and I mean, you just look up and you're like, wow.
Sorry.
Yeah. Not used to that feeling, but yeah, I mean, very
Hank LoForte are probably like, yes, no.
Yeah,
I do that
exactly.
to everybody, Matt. What are you talking about?
Yeah. But I mean, the athleticism was very standout. I mean, ran a 6.89 and moved really well in the outfield. 86 arm as well, with exit velocities as high as 95. So I mean, it's a smooth operation. It looks easy for him, and he moves really well at that size. So add a little bit more weight. We'll see what can happen with that frame.
I like what you said with the ease. Like during BP, it was kind of an upper body dominated swing, hips, hands, back, shoulder. But man, he can get the barrel through and the ball comes off really hard. He hit a couple back into the L screen that kind of got me to jump a little bit. Where like, oh, hey, I got back here a lot faster than I was expecting just because of how easy the operation was.
Yeah, so that'll put the finishing touches on the preseason IDs. Let's jump over to our preseason All-State events. We've ran, we had one in San Diego, one in Inland Empire, one in NorCal, and one in Central California there at Antelope Valley. We're going to kind of just bounce around with a bunch of guys, but Hank, I'm going to start with you up in NorCal, an event that I came up for. Loaded event, 80 plus players, and some guys that we are really familiar with, a lot of committed dudes. But let's start with the first guy, the 25 shortstop, who I thought had probably one of the two best rounds of BP and the two best rounds defensively in Tino Vassell, the 25 shortstop.
Yeah, I personally hadn't seen Tino in a couple years, but the kid's legit. I think I can confidently say he's one of the better Bay Area hitters, especially the lefty sticks in Northern California. Mm-hmm. I know he's gained some muscle from last year. I think that's definitely helped just overall. But I mean, you saw him at short. He's smooth. He can pick it. He can go to his left, go to his right, come gets it. And then once the sun kind of came out a little bit, his bat was hot. I don't think there was a ball he hit that wasn't hard during the BP.
Oh, and I think he jumped ship 3 or 4 times too. Like
he hit about 4 or 5 out, which was
dude. It was
and
impressive.
How hard were the winds blowing that day? I mean, you guys said it was howling up there.
We had crosswind, so we had it was a literal crosswind, right? And this guy's just jumping ship to right center field like it's nobody's business, man.
But the swing, it's just it's easy, It's like it's not like he's putting his full effort into it, and so. And then just even talking to him on the side, he's such a humble kid. He's not, trying to be better than everybody. He's, hey, my name's Tino, doesn't even tell you where he's committed. He's a super one of those kids, but I mean, that's College Park shortstop, and College Park's predominantly a really good program.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, guys like 𝕍𝕬𝕕, Willie McIver, all those dudes. But yeah, Tino, and there was actually another kid. His second baseman was down at Hardy's preseason All-State.
Oh, Riley Meadows.
Yep. So that's the middle infield. So they're pretty good.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that about like how humble he is, because I was back there behind the plate with all these guys talking to him, and like, yes sir, no sir type kid, looks you in the eye, super respectful kid. And as we know, man, character matters when you're trying to get through this game, right? And Hardy, that's one of Hardy's big points is, what's the character of the kid, like, and I was really impressed with Tino because, like you said, Hank, I mean, take the baseball side of things out. It's a lot like Gio, who we talked about earlier, right? You just, what can I do to help you guys out, sort of thing. And I mean, that's going to carry that kid a long, long way.
He's a good dude.
Yeah, really good dude. Let's bounce around a little bit. Let's head down to the San Diego preseason All-State, Matt, where arguably our best preseason All-State in San Diego that we've had in terms of depth of talent. Let's start at the top. A guy that we had heard a lot about in the fall, in the summer, late summer, and the fall, going into the winter season. Jaden Parker at a University City High School. You guys were all there, or Hardy, you weren't there, but Hank was there with us.
I saw the video.
Yeah, you saw the video. Yeah. This guy walks up, 6'3", 6'4" frame. It's wiry, strong. He's got the longer, dreads. You just never know what you're going to get. But man, this kid was, you talked about Tino being a humble kid. This kid was as nice as they come. But man, when he crossed the lines, this guy put on a show, Matt.
Oh yeah. I mean, just great performance. He did nothing but, increase any opinion that I had on him beforehand. Ran second best or event high, 6'8", 60, followed up with 86 across the diamond. And then BP, it was pretty good. And then get to the game, launches a high 80s fastball, 0-2 in the count, elevated in the zone, no doubter left field. And it was like, wow. The bat plays, I've gone to see him once now for University City in their winter ball, and it's the same thing. Good swings, hitting the ball hard, running hard, good play up the middle. So, I mean, it's an easy operation. And like you said, he's a great kid. Talked to him a little bit too. So, I mean, he's done nothing but, yeah, he has all my support down here in San Diego.
Yeah, he plays. Oh, go ahead, Les.
No, I was just going to say, that was your first time seeing him, obviously. Like, what was your takeaway, from him at shortstop and then offensively?
So, I mean, the 60s, that's where I kind of noticed him first. I was like, who's this kid? He's kind of fast. And then saw him at short, and I was like, all right, he can definitely move. The arm's there. He's pretty quick. And then before we started hitting, I was just chatting it up with him. And like you guys were saying, he's one of the nicest guys. But he plays like he has fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't play I have to get committed or I have to do this. Like, he's literally out there. His boys are out there. He was just having a good time. Like, he didn't try to hit that bomb. He literally just went up and was like, all right, boom. Yeah. So I think I respect kids like that who just go out there and leave it all out there. And but yeah, I think he's uncommitted, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he shouldn't be for long.
One of those
for long.
Yep.
Yeah, whoever gets that kid, he's a real good player.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, all these guys that we're going to talk about here today, I think kind of fit in that bill of being good players. And one guy I know, Hardy, that you really liked from the Central Cal preseason All-State, Brady Hewitt was one of your standouts there.
Yeah.
This is an event that both you and Hank were at for the preseason All-State there in Central Cal at Antelope Valley College. Take us through what you saw from Brady Hewitt.
First, I was super pumped for Brady. I saw him as a sophomore 3 times. He was wiry, athletic. He was committed to a different school at that time. He winds up, getting some physicality to his frame. He's on the rise. He commits to Oregon. and then he has a non-throwing arm injury to his left shoulder, misses his entire junior season, misses his entire senior or rising senior summer. He misses the entire fall from hitting. I got to see him at the very beginning of December with it was actually his first game back facing live pitching after all of this. And so getting him there, I was super excited. And then for him to have the day that he had, I was really excited for him to overcome all of that, where you basically missed 10 months of a prime time of your high school career. I mean, he comes out, he's now 6'1", maybe a little closer to 6 foot. He's 205 pounds, very physical kid. But then he goes out and runs a 6'8", 60. And then he goes out and takes a really good infield at shortstop. He's 88 across the diamond. There's a chance he could stick it short. Worst case scenario, he moves over and he's going to be a really good defensive third baseman at the next level. Then BP comes and he's 95 plus pretty much the entire round. He goes over 100 3 times. He goes 105 on a 300, was it 385-foot bomb down the left field line. Another one where he hit it and I stopped and just turned and watched it, like how far. And I noticed a few guys that were out shagging in left field, like just turn around and stand there and watch how far this ball was going to go. Game comes, fantastic showing. He got on the mound. He was up to 92. He'll probably close for Royal this year. I've heard he's been up to 94, 95, ton of arm strength, really good slider. Just doesn't have the feel for it yet because it's kind of a new thing for him. Because he wanted to get in the field in the fall and he couldn't hit yet. So he's like, well, I can pitch. So he goes out and all of a sudden people find out he's 90, 93 and can get it up to 94, 95.
Oh,
So, but the biggest thing for me with him was he faced Osvaldo Nunez from Notre Dame later in the day. And I kind of tried to match him up against some of the better arms there so he could see that type of pitching.
Yeah.
And Ozzy gets him first pitch. He bounces the slider down and away, and Brady chases it. And you can kind of see a like, whew, that was a good pitch. And then he gets to a 2-strike count. He battles off a slider. He battles off a fastball. He lays off. And then Ozzy left a slider up just enough that Brady could adjust and get to it. And he flipped it out into center for a single. Gets on, he winds up stealing second, and he had drawn a walk earlier in the day. And I turned around, I was like, Brady, man, like, is that your third stolen base today? He's like, nah, coach, it's only 2. Well, the very next pitch, he steals third base, and he looks at me, he goes, now I got 3. And I just laughed, and I was like, and it was really cool. At the end of the day, he comes up, and he just was super appreciative because it was his first chance to kind of get back on that stage after missing all that time.
Yeah.
He was like, man, thank you. This was awesome. Great competition. Like, super, like we said, just super great kid. I'm pumped for him. I'm excited to see him this spring. I think he's on the way to a monster senior year at what should be a very good Royal program.
Yeah. Hank, what was your takeaway? You were there, you saw Hewitt. I mean, what's your takeaway?
I mean, Hardy pretty much knocked it out of the park right there. But the one thing I will say is he could have fooled anybody because I didn't know what he'd gone through prior to that. And, he hides it so well. Like if you were to just talk to him and stuff, he pretty much just kind of, it doesn't really affect him. Right. If anything, it's like he plays with a chip on his shoulder.
That's a good way of saying that.
Propels him just to kind of, get after it out there. And, it shows he's just a little different. So, yeah. Speaking of guys that are a little bit different, Matt, we were at the Inland Empire preseason All-State, and, Dylan Seward, the 2027 shortstop coming out, after a monster freshman season, a really strong summer, was there, the switch hitting shortstop. There's not much, I can say that hasn't already been said about this guy, but I mean, the fact that he keeps getting better and better is a scary proposition. And he's adding some strength to his frame and he's getting taller. This guy, I mean, I don't know if you had seen him before, Matt, or not, but, having seen him a little bit last spring and then had him at a Rising Stars and an underclass event a couple years ago. This guy there's a reason why he's one of the top 2027s in the class.
Yeah, he's absolutely electric. I mean, he came out, I think we had an issue with the tech on his first 60, and then he just turned around a couple guys later, 6'5'7". You're like, what in the world was that? Follows that up with 90 across the infield, easy, looks good with his hands. And then the hitting was on point too, highlighting 86 bat speed. I mean, electric from both sides, cranking it into the 90s with both sides, 93.2 average exit velocity and reaching up into the 100. So it's like, I mean, you can't really poke a hole when he can hit against the left, he hit against the right, he plays shortstop and run like crazy.
I think what impressed me the most about him was like during the game, right? In these settings, you often get guys that don't talk a lot, right? They don't, there's, you can't really get a good feel for kind of their leadership. But I mean, when he was playing up the middle, was taking charge. He's talking to the second baseman, he's talking to the pitcher, he's talking to the outfielders. Like that was really impressive to me. Like he really kind of set, like, hey, I'm the alpha dog on the field right now, and you guys all need to know that I'm the alpha dog on the field right now. And that really stood out to me, especially when you consider, I mean, he's only a sophomore, and the way he carries himself on the field was really, really professional, and really stood out to me, from just kind of having seen him as a freshman last spring to what, he's kind of evolving to now, as a sophomore. And speaking of sophomores that are evolving, Hank, up in NorCal, we had another one of the best sophomores in the state, Mariano Gonzalez, who I hadn't seen him in the outfield. I'd seen video of him on the mound and really liked what I saw on the mound. But holy smokes, Hank, this guy gets out in the outfield. He's 90 from the outfield. He ran really well in the 60. His BP was really good. I mean, you get the sense that this guy is a legit two-way prospect moving forward.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen him throw from the outfield either. And I was actually by home plate when that was going on. And with all the wind and stuff, he was probably one of the only guys where you could still hear the seams through the wind, when you throw a ball. And so I was like, that's a good indication of he has a cannon. So saw him do that.
Got that bacon sizzling.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty max effort with the swing. I'll say that, but it comes off the bat hot. But I think where I am most intrigued with Mariano is on the mound. Like if you're touching 91 in January right now, that's a little, and you're left-handed and you're 27.
And he gets there pretty easy, doesn't he?
Yeah. I might be a future game starter against, something in the future.
Let's not throw that out there yet. What I like that you brought that up, that you can kind of hear the seams, because he was throwing into a wind, man, and it still was 90 from the outfield. Yeah, I mean, wind was swirling that day. It was insane for those listening.
Like an old candlestick day there, just blowing every direction.
Because you know how. You know how Ohlone is, right? You have the big mountain behind, so that wind was just coming down and whipping through the field, and it was cold, it was windy, and he was, I want to say, like the second or third outfielder up to throw, and it was impressive that he was able to get that much on those throws, with that wind, with that temperature. But to your point though, Hardy, it's pretty easy on the mound, and it's a 3-pitch mix. It's pretty lively too. And it's just really impressive for a sophomore. You had an impressive arm there in Central California that you and Hank got eyes on, and Holden Newhouse, a guy that I know when he registered, we were all pretty excited to get him to that event.
Super pumped. I mean, Notre Dame is definitely got a reputation for being a pitching factory with the arms they run out of there. I mean, you're talking about a kid that played on JV last year because that's how deep and talented their pitching is. And then he goes out and he blows up in the summer. He winds up getting an LMU commit by the end of the fall. I saw him in early December up to 91, 92. He was like 87, 88. I think he hit an 89. But the kid can really pitch. Like, it's not just velocity. He throws strikes. He's got a ton of tempo, not only in his delivery, but just give me the ball, get on the mound, get the sign. Here we go. I'm coming right at you. He doesn't let hitters really kind of get settled. The ball's on top of you before you realize it. I think the funnest part about him is, he's got a really good fastball, But that slider change combo, I mean, you got the slider darting this way, and then you got the change diving down and in, and they both tunnel really well. Like you can't, I was watching it from behind, and you don't see like a jump out of the slider that you know it's a slider, and you don't see the change start to dive down right away. They both come straight and then they make their move. And he got some really funky swings with both. Only one guy got a hit off of him. I think it was 2 or 3 punch outs and 5 hitters. A lot of uncomfortable swings. He actually got his own teammate out, which was fun for him. So just really impressive. I think that Notre Dame staff is so loaded this year. I don't know where he's going to wind up for them just because they're so good. They have so
Yeah.
many arms, but he's going to be a key piece to whatever they do this spring.
Hank, what was your takeaway? I know this was the first time you saw Newhouse. What was your takeaway on him?
Just your typical, SoCal pitcher that knows how to pitch. I think. I mean, he does throw good, but I think what separates him is he kind of knows what he is. He's not trying to throw 95, and like if you
That's
sit
a good
90,
point.
Right, and it goes back to like those old Fullerton kind of guys. It's more development, not just max effort. And I think what helps him too is his tempo. It's give me the ball, get it, go. Next guy. But I know Notre Dame has a boatload of talent, so I don't know how much he's gonna be in that rotation, but I'm sure he's gonna find a way to help him win.
Yeah. Also reminiscent of those old dirtbags pitchers there, Hank. From back in the day.
Trying to start a war on here.
Get the notebook out.
Oh man! Hey, back down to San Diego, Matt, a guy that we obviously had at the state games last year, committed shortly after the state games. Guy that, or maybe he didn't commit shortly after the state games. I'm not certain, but a guy that we really like, and Drew Frost. I mean, this guy, all he does is hit. Hardy, you've seen him a bunch. Obviously at the state games. Hank,
left-handed hitters who rake.
Games. Yeah, you saw him at the state games, and obviously you saw him down in San Diego. But Drew Frost, out of Point Loma. I mean, this guy, all he does is hit, Matt.
Yeah, I'm still uncommitted, but I mean, it was ridiculous at the state games. He was going triple to left center, triple to right center. Did the same thing in San Diego. It was 3 hits on the day, I think, 1 infield squibber, but then 2 hard hit balls, and then stole 2 or 3 bases as well. He's a gamer. It's a no stride swing that he's just always on time, always putting the barrel on it. Sometimes he's hitting it harder than others, but I mean, 95 exit velocity single and a 95 exit velocity double in game. So I mean, just prolific hitter who just hits against good pitchers. Bad pitches anywhere in the zone, doesn't matter.
Hank, you were there. You obviously saw him at the state games as well. Then, a few months later here at the preseason All-State. What's your takeaway from Frost?
I'm rooting for Drew Frost. I hope that kid finds a school. Honestly, every time I've seen him, I think it's been 2 or 3 times. He's got like 8 hits.
Yeah.
Right, and like I think 4 or 5 of them have been extra base hits. So it's like, he's pretty clean in the outfield. I don't have any problems with the kid. I mean, I think he's a gamer.
Yep.
Yeah, not a lot of holes in his game. And 4 stolen bases, Matt. The one AB, he stole second and third. Then he stole second the other 2 times he was on. It's really impressive. But hey, well, let's head up over to the Inland Empire preseason All-State. And another guy that we're pretty familiar with. Thanks in large part to his coach. Kind of throwing him on our radar, and that's Wyatt Moeller. We've all seen him. We all saw him at the state games, but at the preseason All-State, just continues to impress with the ability to hit, the consistency of the bat, but then the athleticism defensively.
Yeah, I wasn't there, but I'll bump real quick on Wyatt because I happened to see him about 2 weeks after this event, and I was talking to him and his dad just quickly. I was like, man, sounds like you did really, and this is the humbleness of the kid. It's like, man, sounds like you did really well at Inland Empire. He's like, yeah, I was all right. Like I could have done better because like, I
Yeah.
didn't have my best day. But I 100% agree on the defensive side. Like that kid can go laterally. He made a play when I saw him 2 weeks later going to his glove side where it was almost cutting the shortstop off, going up the middle, pop the hips, and just threw an absolute strike to first base.
Matt, what was your takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, just looking back at the video, it's a athletic frame and simple swing that is on time, getting some line drives. So no complaints about it. It looks good. 84 across the infield. Also caught for us as well. Popped low twos to 2-2.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Interesting. I didn't even
then
know he did that.
yeah, and then hopped up on the mound was 85. So it's a lot of room to add with that frame, but I mean, he's a gamer as well. So
Yeah. Speaking of gamers, Hank, back up into NorCal, a guy I hadn't seen in Colton Hadfield. The 2027 was again, I mean, one of those guys that was impressive up the middle defensively at shortstop during the workout. He had a pretty strong pen, where he showed the ability to land 3 pitches for strikes. A guy I'm sure you're more familiar with than any of us, but what was your takeaway on Colton Hadfield from the NorCal preseason All-State?
First time seeing Colt. I know he plays for Trotsky. He goes to Valley Christian, so another one of those. He's going to be in that really good league out there, but kid's an athlete. He's about 6 foot, 165, 70 pounds, but the arm is live. He can dart it across the diamond. He was up to 90 in the pen on a really cold day again. Yeah. And then the hit tool's there too. It's one of those things where is he going to stay on the left side or is he going to make a transition to center or possibly the mound? I know he's probably going to be on varsity this year on Valley Christian. So he's going to find a way to use, some type of pitching, hitting, or defense for them. But yeah, I like him. I'm excited to see him during the season just because it's a kid I want to follow for a little bit. And I like that he's a 27 too. So I have high expectations for Colton Hadfield in the future.
Yeah, I really liked him at the plate. Again, I was behind the plate there, kind of watching those guys. And, it wasn't like overpowering. Like he wasn't hitting balls out of the yard, but he was wearing out the gaps, man. And it was just like, okay, like that's pretty impressive for a 27 to be able to, hit some solid line drives to the gaps and, things you could easily imagine that athleticism carrying those into extra bases. And, at Valley Christian, like you said, Coach Ďodyr is going to find a way to use him somehow, right? Whether it's, late in the game on the mound or, maybe a pinch hit or a defensive replacement, he should get some valuable experience this year on the varsity there at Valley Christian. But head back to Central Cal, Hardy. 𝕼𝓼𝓮 was one of the guys that you really stood out for you at the Central Cal preseason All-State.
Absolutely,
again,
yeah.
You and Hank were there, so I'd like to get both of your guys' take on 𝕼𝓼𝓮.
Yeah, it was the first 2 guys were no doubters. Hewitt and Newhouse were going to be on here. Then when it was getting it down to like 3 more names, there were so many guys I could have picked from. But Isaiah was one I really wanted to talk about. He came in a bundle of energy from the start. He's also at Royal with Hewitt. And it was just from the moment he walked in the field, you could tell how much he loves playing baseball. Hank was talking about a guy like this earlier, and it's just so much fun. Comes in during BP, and it's barrel, line drive. He was 71% sweet spot rate, got up to 94.6, and I was joking with him because I had written him up for an article about a month before this, and I called him a high contact guy. And then he was smoking balls, and I was like, "Oh, you got pissed off that I said high contact guy? You want to show me you had some thump?" He's like, "Yeah, I can drive the ball, coach." And I was like, "All right, cool." So, and then he had a good day in the game, but the bigger one for me is he got on the bump, and he's wiry, athletic, like 5'10" frame, but he's 85, 87. He'll get it up to 88. It's got a lot of life out of the hand. And then kind of like Newhouse, he's got a pair of off-speed pitches that are really good. I've always liked his curveball. It's 72, 75. It's got some really good vertical downward break to it. And I asked him, I'm like, hey man, do you throw a change? I haven't seen one before. He's like, coach, I got a really good changeup. Watch this. He throws on the next pitch and it just tumbles and dives and gets a whiff. And I was like, all right, do that again. He's like, okay. He throws it again. Same thing. Tumble, dive, locks the hitter up for strike 3. And I just was like, holy, like this is a lot better than I realized. Like I knew you had a fastball and curveball, but you throw a change into the mix and it's almost a legitimate starter profile with those 3 pitches because he throws a ton of strikes. Just he's a kid that I really like. He's an uncommitted 26. I think we were talking about with this with Drew Faust. He's going to be a really good land for whatever program decides to offer him and commit him.
Yeah, I agree. I remember being down there and I was like, Hardy, who's this lefty on the mound? He's kind of good. And then he's like, oh, it's this Tillman kid. He goes to Royal. I was like, oh, shocker. Another kid goes to Royal.
I think we had 5 guys from there. They were all really good.
You know, yeah, that team's got a lot of talent. But, yeah, I'm a fan of Tillman. Just that, you know, I like the lefty on the mound. I think he could be something special in the future on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of guys that might be special in the future, back down to San Diego, Matt, a guy all of us are very familiar with, shortstop Alex Harrington, you know, obviously the Stanford commit, coming off a really strong fall season, came out there, didn't run, but he did jump and was kind of, you know, at the top of that leaderboard with the vertical jump. Defensively was once again one of the smoother infielders that we had at the event. You know, in game, scuffled in his first at bat a little bit, but then he made an adjustment. You know, damn near hit a ball out that went off the top of the fence for an easy stand-up double. Gets another one for another extra base hit later in the game. I mean,
Single to the left side, but yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, a guy that, you know, just continues to impress with his abilities.
Yeah, I mean, I saw tons of Alex last year. I mean, very stacked Cathedral Catholic team. And I mean, one of my main takeaways is that he is a competitor, right? He gets into the game, he competes, he's respectful, always making sure that he's, you know, not being too crazy, but also still being intensely focused on the game. He faced one of the top pitchers there who, 𝓟𝓻𝓮𝓼𝓮𝓼, who was on our Futures game team, locked on 4 pitches. And I asked Taden, I was like, you want him again? And he was like, yes. And then so Alex just ran back in from second base and faced it. I had like a 14 pitch at bat. And that was just as impressive as a 94 exit velocity single to the left side.
Yeah.
You know, just, you know, competitor.
Yeah. Hank, I'm not sure if you'd seen him in person before, but you know, you saw him there. What's your takeaway?
Yeah, I've never seen Alex, or I've heard a lot about him, but like just another good dude. He was a yes sir, no sir type kid. And then on the defensive workout, I'm a fan. And then the hitting side, he gets in there. He's just a dog, you know, like he doesn't want to get out and he swings with a purpose. So I think you combine those two, it's a pretty hard out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive overall. And speaking of impressive, Matt, the next day when we're at Inland Empire, a guy we had 2 years ago on our junior future games team, Zion Martinez, you know, shows up thicker, stronger, more well built, obviously been in the weight room, and it showed definitely in game. But I mean, he seems to have improved the athleticism defensively as well, because what we saw from him at shortstop was, you know, if Suey was 1A, you know, Zion was 1B at shortstop there, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100% agree. He just had an amazing day. Launched a home run, if I'm correct.
You are correct.
Yeah.
The only homer of the day.
Yeah, and then another hardline drive over the third baseman's head for a single. I mean, moves really well. I mean, when he threw, I think it was across the infield, just zippy, moves well on the infield, good lefty swing with high exit velocities with an average of 96 and a top of 101.6. I mean, this has been one of the craziest experiences is seeing how far these junior future games from 2 years ago have, jumped up and improved, gained the weight, gained the athleticism, and he's another example of that.
Yeah, I think on his bomb, he got frozen by the pitch the pitch before, and I think I yelled out, "Do it again" to the pitcher, and yeah, it was not the right decision. He had it coming, man, and Zion just teed it up. And I think it was like 96 off the bat, which was even more impressive to me. I mean, that was a really, really peak exit velo on that homer. May have been somewhere in that 94, 96 range, but I mean, that was a no doubter, right? I mean, he turned on that thing to right center field, and you could just hear the dugout. I mean, every kid in the dugout was like, "Whoa!" Like it was an audible gasp. Coming out of the dugout for those guys for Zion's homer. And, another guy, Hank, up in NorCal that gave at least me some audible gasps, a 2028, and another name that I'm very likely to butcher here, and 𝕼𝕚𝓼𝓮𝓼𝓮𝓼𝓮𝓼𝓼, the first baseman, right-handed pitcher.
Wow.
This guy, Hank, you had told me about him. You said, "Hey, we have the set of twins coming. They're both pretty good. Let's talk afterwards. What you think about them." But 𝕼𝕖𝓼 was, dude, this guy was on a different level when it comes to freshmen.
He don't look like no freshman.
No,
him and his brother both. They're like
Right.
Samoan, just both 6 foot plus Samoan twins, 28 class, and they both just look physical, right? Like,
But it's like a lean, strong physical, right? They're not like
Yeah.
this big, bulky frame. It's like a lean, strong physical frame.
and they're still young in the face.
Yes.
Right. So you could tell like there's a lot of room to grow. But if you were to meet the dad, nicest dude on the planet, But as far as his kid, like 𝕼𝕖𝓼, especially, he's the lefty of the group. And he also pitches too, he was low 80s on the mound, as a freshman, that's fine. But it was the stick where you're like, whoa, that's not a freshman bat. He's swinging it like he's a junior and senior in high school. And because, I think he maxed out at like 97 EV, which was pretty impressive. But it was just how short and quick he can get to that ball. And I think he hit one out to right center. That was just a moonshot. We were all kind of like, wow, that was pissed on. So, but yeah, he's one of those kids where I think if he just progresses the way he should, he's going to be one of the top kids in the Bay Area and all of Northern California.
Another Valley Christian guy?
No, he actually goes to St. Francis with his brother. Yeah.
Okay.
So he plays with Gino.
Yeah, with Gino
St.
Francis, but still same league, right?
It's that league.
The Trinity League of NorCal up there, and that kid is a name certainly to remember. And you guys, when you sent me these names, I'm thinking, okay, are we creating an all-name team here and trying to make it as hard as possible for less? Because you got another one who last name I'm very likely to put here from Central Cal, Oliver Das Curtis. That's
you nailed it. Same. I didn't guess my first time.
Yeah, hey, the best I can do on that one. Oliver was a standout for you and Hank. Up there at the Central Cal preseason All-State. Hardy, tell us a little bit about him.
Oliver was another one I was really excited when he decided to sign up for this. He's ranked 14th right now in our 28 class. I think he's going to move up pretty quickly. I might have been a little light on him when I was talking him up for the rankings because I had only seen him once at that time, and he showed really well. It's a 6'3", 185. I think he's probably a little closer to 190 frame with athleticism. I had only seen him play first base. He worked out in the outfield and ran a 7-flat 60 on a day when most guys were running a little bit lower. So I would not be surprised if he's like a 6'9", 6'8" runner already at 6'3", 185, 190. Armed good from the outfield. The bat is what catches your eye. It's a very easy, explosive swing. He was living up in the upper 90s on his exit velocity, got over 100 miles an hour. And the impressive thing for me was it's not dead pull power. Like, he's not looking to yank. he was going to the deepest part of the park with carry, hitting the wall in straightaway center field, one hopping the wall in like the left center gap, hitting the wall in the left center gap. And it was like, holy, this kid's going to be even better than I realized. Then you have the fact that he's 82 to 84 on the bump and throws a ton of strikes as well. It's like, man, like I'm really, really impressed with Oliver. It was a little more workout than game results, but I mean, he was one of the youngest guys there. He's going to be a stud. I don't know what you think of him, Hank, but I'm super, super excited to get to watch this kid for 4 years.
That's what I was gonna say. Is he's only what, a freshman?
Yeah, I'll see him tomorrow.
Right. And I remember I think I was doing grip strength earlier that day, and he was like one of the top 3 in the event. I was like, what grade are you in? He's like, oh, I'm a freshman. Like, oh,
that's a great way. When he talks, you're like, oh yeah, you are a freshman. Like, it's not that deep booming voice yet.
Yeah, I got no worries about him. I think being that like talented as a freshman, I think once he intertwines how to do it in a game, that's when he's going to be really good.
Yeah, he was. I from all accounts, based on what Hardy had told me, was one of the better guys there. And again, being a freshman, that's really exciting. Another guy I thought was really exciting down in San Diego, guy we'd known about for a bit, Tyson Bobo out of Patrick Henry. I know that Matt liked him on the mound. I really liked him at the plate. I thought what he showed offensively during the game, during BP, was really impressive. Hank, I know that was probably the first time you had seen him. So again, I thought the offense for me carried the day. He labored a little bit on the mound, at least with the first batter. Then he kind of found his rhythm and his groove and figured it out. But I thought offensively was one of the better hitters there. Hank, again, first time seeing him, what was your takeaway?
Athlete. That's what I think of Tyson. He's got that raw athleticism. And then when you see him hit, it doesn't look the most conventional, but it plays. Like, he's got a sweet little swing. His hands are kind of lower set, but I mean, as far as, overall athleticism, and then seeing him on the mound, I was like, this arm's pretty live, I didn't know he pitched. So I think that's another thing that if he can get serious about, he might have a future on the mound as well as, with that bat. But yeah, just another kid I'm a fan of.
Yeah. Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I first saw Tyson last year. He transferred from University City where Parker and AJ Curry are. But I mean, I saw him, didn't hit a lot in front of me, but what caught my eye was him making a play on the run to his right side in the outfield and throwing an absolute laser beam. And then I followed him on Twitter, and it's like, oh, okay, he throws hard. And then I've been wanting to get him out to an event for a while just because I know that, he's a baller, 88 from the outfield for us. And then just fast bat, 83.6 bat speed. He just toe taps and gets that thing into the zone really fast. And like you said, he did labor a little bit. But I think when he's locked in on the mound, it's really hard to hit, like a wipeout slider that he was spotting low and away over and over again with the fastball that has some run on it. So big fan of Tyson. Good kid too.
Yeah, it was really, really impressive. I hadn't seen the bat at all. Just video of him pitching and him pitching. I was really impressed with the bat out of him. And a guy at the Inland Empire preseason All-State that we've seen hit for a number of years, who, in my opinion, should have won the MVP of the Future Games 2 years ago. Justin Lopez out of Oulu had a really strong day. If you're seeing the theme here from Inland Empire, these middle infielders, right? I mean, Dewey with Zion, now with 𝕼𝓼𝓮. Again, a guy that can pick it, probably profiles as an offensive second baseman, but had a really strong day at the plate, had a really strong day defensively all around. Just another uncommitted junior who I think has the potential for a breakout season at Oulu, Matt.
Yeah, 100%. Justy was ridiculous in the future games 2 years ago. Hit everything under the sun, and he's been about the same size, but you're starting to see like the maturity in the frame and getting a little bit beefier while still maintaining his athleticism. So, I mean, yeah, he can hit smaller frame, but he can get it done with the bat, hit the ball just as hard as pretty much everyone else. And yeah, I mean, been cool to see his progression.
Well, I think, we saw it at the future games, right? When, he left
Right.
the yard there for a bomb to left field. He hit another one that bounced over the fence. He just had a heck of a week out there at the future games. And, there's some pop in that bat despite the smaller frame. And it's a guy that obviously can pick it and has enough arm strength for the left side of the infield. But now let's get back up to NorCal and Hank. We talked about character, humility of some of these guys, and the Mason Belding, 26 catcher, committed to LSU, correct? LSU, right? LSU. You talk about being a humble kid. I mean, I chatted with this guy for about 10 minutes, and I was blown away about how a kid has achieved that much success in the early part of his life and is just so humble.
Yeah, it's Mace. I like to just call him Big Teddy Bear because that's what
like
he is.
that.
He's like
That's
6'2", 220, just a big. He looks like he's from Louisiana if you were to look at this kid, right? And I actually was fortunate enough to coach Mace when he was in 8th grade. And when I first saw this kid, I'm like, who is this kid and where is he from? I need to get to know this kid. Like, because 8th grade, he was a sub 2.0 behind the dish, and his bat, he was hitting balls out of Great Park in 8th grade. And so just from then, it was like, this kid's a little different than a lot of the kids. And I mean, you saw it, Les, is the hit tools there, the arms there. Now, if he stays behind the plate or if he has to transition to first in the future, that's another combo. But as far as overall makeup, and he's like 16, 17 years old, don't really have much bad to say about Mason. I'm just excited to see what, route he's going to take.
Yeah, I mean, hitters hit, right? And
Yeah.
if you can hit, you're going to play. And I mean, I don't care where you play defensively, but if you're contributing to the offense and the lineup, which he absolutely has the chance to do at LSU, if not in pro ball, I was just really impressed with the type of person that he is or that he came off as being. And that, as we've touched on a number of times here in this podcast, is so critical for kids. And, I wish more kids understood that because this is a kid committed to LSU as a junior and, you would never know that. Right. I mean,
Right.
We know that.
Yeah.
We know that because the kid and because, we report on stuff like that, but you would never know that this kid's going to LSU. You would think that he's just a player on a team. And that's awesome.
I know his his workout program's a little different. He works on a ranch, so he's baling hay. He's doing some old grit work, and so I think that's another part of him of why he's so humble is because he knows what it he knows what hard work is.
Yeah,
right.
And another thing too is I was fortunate enough to see Mace at my event, and then I saw Sheffer at Hardy's event. And it's funny, they're the two best catchers in the state, but they're like totally complete opposite guys. I thought it was funny to me.
Yeah, one's big, strong, bulking guy. The other one's
wiry, athletic,
smaller, lean, wiry, athletic. Yeah, it's crazy, right? Hey, that's the beauty of baseball.
NorCal versus the coast, right there. You got country versus the beach.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Mace lives in the sticks.
That's what you told me.
Yeah. Hey, last guy up from the Central Cal, the Central Cal preseason All-State, Mason Krang Hardy. I know as a guy you kind of been, and I probably butchered that last.
No, you
name.
got it. You nailed it.
Okay. As a guy that you've kind of been singing his praises for some time now.
Absolutely. I mean, I was torn so much on this last one. There, Gavin Williams, Jacob Madrid. There were so many other guys that Brady Bickham from Damien that could have gone here. I think I went Mason simply because I already knew he was a really good hitter, and he backed that up. He was one of the top hitters at San Marcos as a sophomore. He was upper 90s on his exit velocity, average 93.6 on his average exit velocity. Looked really good at third like he always does. Like I knew he was a good position player, got to hit off a new house. But it was when he got on the mound, that's what really pushed him over the edge for me is I didn't know he pitched. Like he reached out to me in advance, like, hey, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna throw. I'm like, wait, what? You pitch also? He's like, yeah, I didn't throw last year, but I'm gonna be a key arm for us this year. It's like, cool, I'm excited to see this. And I think it was the second batter, Hank walks out and goes, who's this kid? Like, that's a really good breaking ball. I was like, it is. He's like, yeah, he has a curveball that was in the mid to upper 70s. I think he got up over 2,600 RPMs of spin. He lives mid 80s. He'll touch a 7 and an 8. And it was like, oh man, like you're really good on the mound and you're really good as a position player. The profile just grows more. And I know he's like a 4.5 or a 4.6 student. So he's getting a ton of Ivy League interest. So it's like, man, you look at this kid, an outstanding student, super nice kid, and he's got two-way potential, and he's going to be probably the key piece for San Marcos if they're going to win the Channel League again this year. They're going to need Mason to go off on both sides.
You could add up my junior and senior year GPA and not get to first place, guys. Just for the record. So don't use me as the example there, guys. Use Mason Kreng as your academic example in your lives. But like you, we had a hard time deciding kind of the last guy from San Diego. I mean, you had Carter Hadnot, you had 𝓚𝓮𝓮𝓼𝓮, you had Trevor Smith, who committed to Washington State shortly after that. AJ Curry, the Tennessee commit, right? Jet Kennedy, the Cal commit. Krogsgaard, who committed to Fullerton shortly after that. But I'm overruling Matt here, and I'm going with JoJo Flores as our last guy to talk about because another junior future games guy who has legit two-way potential. And I know when Hank, that was your first time seeing him, you after the defensive workout, kind of similar to Krang, you came up to me, you're like, dude, who's that kid? Because he can really freaking pick it. And he's added probably 15 pounds of muscle since we last saw him last year. But Hank, I mean, as a former infielder, what was your takeaway of JoJo Flores, both at shortstop where he showed out, but then on the mound and offensively too?
He was at state games, right?
Yes.
He was at state games. Yes.
That's where I think I originally first saw him. And then, and so from seeing him there to the All-State, I was like, dude, your arm's gotten like way better. Yeah. You've gotten stronger, and then you're hitting balls all over the place. So for me, he actually progressed a lot, much faster than I thought a 27 would just from the summer. He's got a shot to open some college eyes, like you said, with the two-way potential, just because, if you're popping upper 80s, a low 9, and you can show some speed and hit, then that's a recipe for some good schools. But I am a fan of JoJo. I'm hoping to see more of him if I could get down there. But I know he's out in the sticks a little bit.
Easy now. We don't have as many sticks.
The Inland Empire is not that bad of sticks.
That's the IE to us sticks up here.
But no, what really impressed me, Matt, was just the physicality, right? I mean, the shoulders, like they're starting to round out, it's squared. I mean, he's obviously been spending a lot of time on the physicality part of the game.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, this was the third time in probably a year that we've seen him, and each time it's just progressively just getting bigger. Everything just getting better as well. I mean, looking at his stats, every single one of them's improving each time he comes out. Speed, arm velocity, everything. And I mean, he's a go-getter too. Like, he's always ready to step in at the empty position, step in at the plate if we need an at bat. And then, I mean, like you said, dominated on the mound. So another one of those junior futures games guys where it's just like, wow, you see how they progress and you see what they do, what they need to do to get to that size, to get to that athleticism. And it's great to watch.
Hardy, you spent a lot of time in a dugout coaching, and you see these younger guys with this two-way potential, and JoJo certainly has that two-way potential. I mean, at what point does it become obvious, like, okay, this guy's going to be a hitter or this guy's going to be a pitcher? What do you think on JoJo? Because the talent
It's
on
just,
both sides of the ball is there.
I think it's so hard to take one away from a kid too soon unless they just fully prove it. And I think it comes down to more like how does it play in the game? If they're getting on the bump and they can't throw strikes, even if they're 90, 92 and they can't throw strikes, then you're a little more concerned because it's like, well, do we want to spend time splitting hairs and maybe just being good at two things when I could be great at one? Kind of same thing as a hitter. Like if you're going up there and you just can't hit, like you look good in BP and you do all the other things, but you can't hit in the game. Like, when do you take that bat out of their hand? I think the game will tell you. I think that was one of the best things I was told when I was a young coach was don't make a decision on the kid, let the game tell you. The game will tell you what they're going to do best. And if they're really good at both, you let them keep doing both. I'm going to go way back. It was 2008, 2009. First 2 years I was at Ventura College. Our two best players were two-way guys. The names are 𝓟𝓻𝓮𝓼𝓮𝓼 and Blair Walters. Rao got drafted by the Red Sox and wound up being a pitcher in their organization. And then Blair Walters went to Hawaii, got drafted by the Braves, wound up being a pitcher in their organization. But both of them did both all the way through until they got into pro ball. It wasn't until they got to pro ball that finally the game said, you're not a position player, you're not a position player, you're both pitchers. And funny part is Garrett wound up going and playing independent ball as a shortstop after he got released by the Red Sox.
Yeah.
So I think the game will tell you is the best thing I ever got told.
Yeah, the game will tell you, and this next guy, what the game told us is that this guy is going to be a weapon on the mound for Los Osos out of the Inland Empire.
Yeah.
Gavin 𝓼𝓮𝓮 at the Inland Empire preseason All-State was the last arm to throw and arguably the best arm to throw for us. Was 85, 87, struck out 4 out of 5 guys. The slider is a true weapon at 75, 76. And then, oh, by the way, let me throw in this diving changeup at up to 80 miles an hour that, like you said earlier about one of your guys, Hardy, tunnels incredibly well out of the fastball. I hadn't seen Gavin pitch prior to this. Obviously his Coach Kelly over there raves about him. But I'm not sure if you saw him up at that Santa Barbara camp or not.
I missed him. He threw the night before, and I was talking to his coach, and he's just like, man, you can't run him down. I'm like, I know. You're going to have to let me know when he throws in spring because Les said he's really good. You've said he's really good. And I guess he carved the night before against Bosco on a Friday night up there, and it was like 2 really good innings facing what's a really good Bosco team.
Yeah, Matt, I mean, that was, I'm presuming, the first time you've seen him. This guy was electric, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was really good. Easy down the hill and good control of his pitches. I think I was umpiring for his pitching, so I got to be front row seat right behind there, and you just see him like dice, hit inside corner, outside corner, mix the pitch, missing barrels, and it was I don't know, it couldn't be anything short of dominant from what he showed us with a projectable frame and really good attributes to his pitches that he has already.
I mean, he went through 5 hitters and like 22 pitches. Like it was with 4 punchies. So that gives you an indication of just like that kid's command. I mean, it was lights out that day. 6 foot, $170, 2026. He also, I believe, he plays some outfield for them. But I mean, the future on the mound for that guy is incredibly bright. And guys, those are the guys that we wanted to talk about here for the preseason events. I can't thank you guys enough for making some time to hop on the podcast and show these players some well-deserved love. I mean, because that's ultimately what it's about.
Absolutely. They deserved all this hour and 15 minutes we've been here. And I think we all can agree we probably could have done 2.5 hours talking about how many kids were out. There's just so many great kids and great baseball players.
Yeah, we're blessed in California to have the level of talent that we do, and it's incredible to see on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, if I could have done more than 5, I would have. But
I had 15 written down, Matt.
Yeah.
Hank, if it makes you feel better.
Yeah, hence that 2.5 hours. Hey, guys, we'll be back with a kind of a high school preview Q&A type podcast coming up here really soon before the start of the season. So again, thank you guys for doing this.
yeah, no problem.
Yep.